Hello, third graders. So today what we're going to be doing is you are going to find a poem and you are going to find a metaphor or simile within the poem and then give us evidence about as to you're going to define whether does that poem show a metaphor, does it show a simile? And then you are going to give us evidence to support it and then explain how that metaphor or simile helped you better understand the text. So I'm going to give you an example for the first one. Your learning target today is I can find a metaphor or simile and give evidence. And your success criteria would be I can complete an organizer to show the metaphor or simile that I found, the evidence, and I can communicate how that metaphor or simile helps me to better understand what the poet is trying to get across. So here are the directions. Choose 3 poems from the link below that shows comparisons and complete the chart. So here is the poem link. Now, whichever poem that I pick is not an option for you to pick because I want to make sure your work stays your work and you're really showing me what you understand about poems. So just to kind of refresh your memory, and in addition, all of these poems all have examples of either a simile, a metaphor, or both. So it's not like you're going to have to really struggle to be finding some examples. There are examples in all of these poems that we've provided for you. So metaphor and simile are techniques that are often used in poetry. A simile is, so if you forgot what a simile is when one thing is described as being like something else, such as her smile was as warm as the sun, or my dog is like a jumping bean. Similes often use the word as or like to compare one thing to another. So those are your clues. If you can see as or like and it's comparing something, then that's a simile. A metaphor, by contrast, is when one thing is described as being something else, such as her eyes were crystal blue lakes, or his mood was a winter storm. So each of these poems includes at least one metaphor or simile. Now again, whichever example I choose cannot be an example that you choose. So I'm going to pick one of the ones at the end, at the bottom. And again, all of these are examples that you can use, except for the one that I pick, because I want to make sure that your work stays your work. So I'm going to go with My Nostril Smells Awesome. And I'm going to read this aloud. And remember, learners, the really cool thing about this website is you can actually hit this play button and it'll read the whole poem to you. So I think I'm just going to read the poem aloud, but keep that in mind as as you're reading some of these poems. You can actually just have it play, read it aloud to you. All right, this one's called My Nostril Smells Awesome. And again, we're looking to see where the metaphor or where the simile is, like what is being compared in this poem. My nostril smells awesome inside of my nose, a bit like the bloom of a newly picked rose. It started this morning, I couldn't say why, and all day it smelled like banana cream pie. It has the aroma of freshly baked bread with hot melted butter and blackberry spread, and maybe the breeze of a warm afternoon that follows a thunderstorm early in June. It smells like a pine forest right by a lake, and chocolate chip cookies my mom likes to bake, like kettle corn popping over a fire, and laundry the moments it's out of the dryer. My nostril smells awesome. So I have a plan to sit and enjoy it as long as I can. Don't ask how it happened, I really can't say. Perhaps it's my finger that's smelling this way. Ew, gross. So by Ken Nesbitt. Okay, so I'm seeing, now what I'm looking for is comparisons. My nostril, so it sounds like they're comparing, well, let me back up and reread, because again, if you're not sure, when you are reading something and you're trying to answer a question, if you're not sure, then back up and reread. My nostril smells awesome inside of my nose, a bit like the bloom of a newly picked rose. So the author, Ken Nesbitt, is saying that his nose smells like the bloom of a newly picked rose. So they're comparing the smell in his nose to the smell of a rose. It has the aroma of freshly baked bread with hot melted butter and blackberry spread. So it's comparing the smell, he's comparing the smell in his nose to bread. He's comparing the smell in his nose to what the pine forest smells like. He's comparing the smell in his nose to chocolate chip cookies. So it smells like, it has the aroma of. I'm gonna infer that I'm seeing this word like, so I'm gonna infer that this is that he's giving us a simile because I see that word like. A bit like. So I'm seeing examples with the word like. So I'm going to go back to, oh, and you have a couple choices here. You could choose to copy and paste, or you could choose just to type. So I'm going to, I know that the first thing on this chart when I'm looking, learners, don't forget to look at labels. I'm noticing that some learners, they don't look at the labels at the top of their chart, so then they're missing some information. So really make sure you're taking a look at the labels in your chart. Or in the assignments that we're giving you. So the first thing is poem title. So everything, all this green, this is where I'm going to be listing all the information from this poem. The yellow would be a second poem I would find, and the red would be a third poem I would find. So poem title. Now you could choose just to kind of type it, or I think I might copy and paste. So I'm going to kind of like highlight this whole thing, and then I'm going to right click. I'm going to copy it, and then I'm going to go back to my chart. I'm going to get rid of this, and then I'm just going to, for me, it's Control V, or you could right click it and paste it in. It is a little, the titles tend to be a little bit bigger, so I'm going to kind of highlight the whole thing and then shrink it down a little bit by this little thing up here. Typically like about 14 makes it kind of easier to see. You don't want to get it too small, but then you don't want it to be too big. Things the poet is comparing. So the poet is comparing, and you don't have to use complete sentences. The poem is comparing the smell in his nose to the smell of a rose. You don't have to list all the comparisons, just one would be fine. Identify if metaphor or simile. I'm going to say that this was a simile. Yeah, I might put like a little hyphen or something in front of it. Simile. And then the words are quote from the text. And again, you can just copy and paste if you want to. So the example that I got is right here in the first line. And Balin, I appreciate how when you were giving evidence to support I think it was personification in your Flipgrid. You did a really great job of giving evidence, like from line 1 or line 3, like great job with that. With this, you could choose to copy and paste, or you could say line 1 or something like that. Well, really, I'd like for you to copy and paste it or type it in because it's hard for me to go back and forth between, you know, where the lines are from the poem and, you know, when I'm glancing, giving you feedback. So just either copy and paste it or type it in. I'm just going to copy and paste it. My nostril smells awesome inside of my nose, a bit like the bloom of a newly picked rose. Okay, so there's my simile. There's my example of a simile. So I'm going to right click, copy. I'm going to go back to my chart. I'm going to get rid of this part, and I'm going to right click and paste. Another, I think, yeah, Control C would be copy and Control V would be paste. And learners, if you're having a hard time with the copy and the paste, see if there's someone in your home that can help you with that, or you can just type it out. It's up to you what you choose to do as to how you want to do that part. So there's my evidence. My nostril smells awesome inside of my nose, a bit like the bloom of a newly picked rose. So I'm comparing the smell in my nose, well, the poet is, to the smell of a rose. How this helps me think about and understand the text. How, I'm going to reread that label. How this helps me think about and understand the text. You don't have to write in a complete sentence here, but I think I might say, this helps me understand the text because it appeals to my sense of smell. I I feel like I can smell what the poet is referencing or talking about. So it kind of gives me like more of like I'm almost as if I'm in the poem and I'm smelling what the poet is smelling. So, and I'm going to shrink this down. I'm noticing this says 16, so I'm going to shrink it down to like 14 or something like that, or maybe less. So that's what you're doing today, learners. You are clicking on this link. You may not use My Nostril Smells Awesome. You're going to have to use a different example from this link. And then you're just going to kind of talk about 3 poems that you found. And you're going to talk about like what the comparisons were. Wait, let's look at the labels. You're going to write the poem title, what the poet is comparing. Don't forget there's 2 steps to this. Identify it's a metaphor or simile. Give us evidence to support what that comparison is. And then how does that comparison help you better understand what the author is trying to tell you? If for some reason you run out of space here, like, because this can go, all the way down the screen, but feel free to make a second slide. You could always like cut and remove this and paste it onto a second slide if you feel like you need more room, because I could completely see how some learners might need a little bit more space there. All right, learners, keep up the great job. Thank you for all of your hard work and really persevering to get yourself ready for 4th grade, because it is going to take some effort, but you got this.